us. I'm conscious we're over time, but we have a very, very important guest this evening, the MEC for Education, Barbara Creecy. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for rearranging your schedule late notice. Many of you know, Barbara's been the MEC for Education since 2009, and certainly from what we can get, a very proactive and a very visible and a very passionate member of the local provincial legislature, and has done a sterling job in terms of promoting education and facing the challenges that education is. Thank you for being with us. Look forward to hearing your views. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter, for those warm words of introduction. Let me acknowledge Louise, Mr. Bobby Gonsall, Dr. James Mclatzy. Let me also introduce you, ladies and gentlemen, to the District Director of Joburg East, who is sitting here with us, Mr. Raymond Martin. Do you mind standing up and just giving everybody a wave? No, don't be shy. Because he is the district director in this area, and many of the schools, although not all of the schools, but many of the schools that you've heard from this evening fall under him. And I'm sure the partnership will agree that he's user-friendly. So I think he deserves that acknowledgement. I felt inspired when I listened to all the stories that all of you have been telling this evening, to tell you my own story of going into leadership. In 2004, I was appointed as the MEC for Sports, Arts and Culture by the then Premier of Gauteng, Mr. Mbaziba Shilawa. And you know, when you get made an MEC or a minister, what happens? And I'd already done 10 years in the Gauteng provincial legislature on what's known as the backbenchers. And when you get made an MEC, what happens is that at 5:30 in the afternoon you get a call. And you get told, could you please report to 37th Street? And of course there had been some rumors beforehand that you might expect the call. But you know, some people hear these rumors, but the call doesn't ever come. And so I jumped into my car and I drove to 37th Street. And when you get to 37th Street, there is a place where normal people go, and then there's a place where MECs go. And the boot came up, and I was waved up there. And you go into this room, and in the room are 10 other people, whom you know. Some are MECs or were MECs in the previous term, and some weren't. And you all sit in the room, and you get called upstairs one by one. And the ones who go up never come back. So what you don't know is, and of course, what you're doing in there, when you come in, they take your phones away. That's the first thing they do, they take your phones away. So you can't do any intelligence gathering operation. You can't phone the ones who've never come back and say, did you get rehired? What did you get? Nothing. Okay? So you don't know as they go through the process, and it takes time. So by the time I went, and I mean, I've been there since 5:30, by the time I went up on it, it was about 11:30 at night. Okay, and you are tense. And in Premier Shila's time, he was quite a good chap, you know. There was a couple of cases of wine. And as you sat there, you came to understand what these cases of wine were for. Unfortunately, that was one bad thing that Premier Mokunyane did, was when we were appointed that time, there was no wine. Anyway, so you go upstairs and you go into this room up on the 16th floor. And the Premier's there, and the provincial secretary of the ANC is there, and the director general of the province is there, and they sit on one side of the table and you sit on the other. And the premier says, yes, Barbara, we've decided to appoint you as the MEC for Sports, Arts and Culture. And as you know, this is the run-up to 2010, so you'll just sort out everything for 2010. Lovely, lovely to see you. Thank you very much for coming. Goodbye. And you go outside. And as you go outside, the GG nips outside and he says, MEC this way, and you get taken through another door. So you can't even see the one who's coming next to say. So they know that that one is gone. And they take you downstairs and they say, right, official photographs. Smile. And I mean, you are in shock. You're in complete shock. And now you must smile. So that terrible picture of you on the night of the appointment, which most of you have in your schools. Now you know why I look the way that I look. Because, you know, all of this has just happened. Anyway, so I go home and my kids are awake, and you get told you're not allowed to tell anybody. And you go downstairs, and they take your car keys away, and you get issued with two gentlemen who from now on drive you, and you sit in the back of your own car, which you drove there, and they come every morning, and they've got this program. And they say, good morning, MEC, and you say, good morning. They open the back door, and you get in the back door, and then they say, they don't say anything. They drive to what's on the program. So, and that's how it is every day, and it's been like that every day for 9 and a bit years. But that I had many roles in political life that had responsibility, but I've never been the boss before. In my first week as the MEC for Arts and Culture, Brenda Fassie passed on. And the very first public engagement I had was I had to go to the hospital where she was lying, at that stage already on life support. And I get taken in there, and you know, got to comfort the family and so on. And I get told when I'm in there, look, she's on life support. The family can't take the decision to do what is required. And when you go out there to talk to the media, you can't tell them that she's on life support. So I say, okay. I've never done a media interview in my life. And I walk out of that hospital into this bank of television cameras and MC Fox, Brenda Fox, how's Brenda Fox? Oh. As South Africans, I think we must all pray for Brenda Fox. That was my first engagement. And the 3 weeks after that, we won the bid to host the World Cup. And I was the only sports government official in South Africa. Everybody else was in Geneva. And it was the same thing. This bank of television cameras, and little me who'd been in the job for 3 weeks and who knew nothing about 2010, absolutely nothing. And now we have the MEC from South Africa, who will be beamed live across the world. Anyway, within a month, I was in a terrible state. And I used to do this thing at night, which I called staring at the wall. So I would go home and I would stare at the wall. And the reason I did that was because at long last nobody was talking to me, nobody was demanding anything of me, nobody was asking me to leave, nobody was bringing me their problems, and I could stare at the wall. And my son, who was 10 years old at the time, chirps up one evening, so Mum, now that you've got what you've always been waiting for, I hope you're enjoying it. And it was that conversation that night that made me realize that I was in a complete crisis and that, in fact, I was going to implode. I couldn't deal with this. And the thing that was hardest was I couldn't understand why I couldn't deal with it. Because there was nothing, technically speaking, that I couldn't do. But emotionally, I couldn't deal with it. And the next day, I phoned one of my colleagues, who still is a good friend of mine, but who had been an MEC already by that stage for 2 terms. And I said to him, I can't go. I don't know what to do. And he said, okay, come and have coffee. And he gave me some advice. And the reason I'm telling you this story is because when you land up in that position, the most important thing for you in that time is to have a critical friend. Someone to whom you can actually say, I can't do this. Because you cannot go to the team and say, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm scared of these TV cameras. I'm scared of these journalists who come and put microphones under my nose. I'm scared of these officials who come with piles and piles of files and say to me, these are the submissions, ABC, you must sign. And you don't know. Should I sign it? Should I not sign it? And there are all these decisions that you have to make. And what you start to do is to postpone making decisions because you're not sure which decision you should take. And you know that there are unintended consequences, but you don't know what they are. And the truth of the matter is that being in leadership it's about taking decisions, often very hard decisions that will have personal consequences for you, unpleasant personal consequences. It's about motivating the team, rallying the troops. It's about dealing with the taxi drivers. And, we've got interesting things like teacher unions in education. It's about parents. And I think that although being a principal might, on the surface of it, seem to be a fairly simple leadership job, it's actually a very, very complicated leadership job. And it has many of the facets that quite senior leadership jobs have, because it involves not just dealing with one set of problems and one set of issues. It actually has a very multifaceted role. And I can tell you, having been MEC for education, that our principals are right at the very heart of our schooling system. The huge turnaround strategy that we are implementing in the department will stand or fall on the basis of those individuals. So we can have the Gauteng primary literacy and math strategy, which we're implementing in 800 schools, and the senior secondary school improvement strategy that we're implementing in 400 schools. But if those individual principals can't lead and can't deal with the daily complexities that their job throws up, those strategies won't really work. Or they will work in the sense that they are running parallel to the school leadership and the school management. But interventions on that scale can't be there forever. As a department, we are spending R1.5 billion per annum on these interventions. We can't do it forever. In the end, that money has got to go onto a way in which these schools will really change permanently, is if the leaders in them are able to say, we understand what the department is trying to do with these turnaround strategies, we like them, we're going to grab them, and we're going to start to implement them ourselves and to achieve what we call mainstreaming the change into the system. So we won't have coaches forever for our primary school teachers. They've got to be able to teach reading and writing and arithmetic themselves, and our principals and our deputy principals and our heads of department and our district officials have to be able to play the role that those coaches are playing at the moment. But they can only do it with the very significant help that I think your organization has given them. And I've been inspired by the stories that I've heard tonight. I've been inspired by the way in which the principals have been inspired, and I've been inspired by the way in which those who are helping have been inspired. And I really think that this is a wonderful program that can contribute a very great deal to the work that we're doing to turn around our education system. What we can say to you as those who are already involved and those who would like to get involved is that our department is deeply committed to turning around the education of our province. We have these very big strategies that are in our schools, all of them working with compliance, school management. And I like to think that we're available to help you to help us. That's why I wanted to introduce Raymond to you, because I think that he is somebody who is user-friendly to private sector partners, and he wants to be able to help you to help us. We can't do this job on our own. Half the schools in this province are what we call priority schools. They are schools that are battling to produce learners at the level that our society, our economy, our future demands. And we can't do it on our own. Available to help you to help us. That's why I wanted to introduce Raymond to you, because I think that he is somebody who is user-friendly to private sector partners, and he wants to be able to help you to help us. We can't do this job on our own. Half the schools in this province are what we call priority schools. They are schools that are battling to produce learners at the level that our society, our economy, our future demands. And we can't do it on our own. So, I would like to have a meeting with you where we can talk about how we make ourselves more user-friendly to the partnership. But I would also like to motivate those of you who've come along tonight to look and see, to say, come on board. It's an incredibly worthwhile activity. In conclusion, let me say to you that before I became MEC for Education, one of the things I could never understand was why the former MECs for Education found it very hard to break their addiction for the department. And I've discovered why. Because very soon when my term is over, I'll also become a problem and an unrehabilitated addict. When times are hard, and they're often hard in this job, when the problems get too enormous, there's something I do now. I go to schools and I interact with the children. And when I do that, it's all worthwhile. Because they have so much life in them, so much energy, so much potential. And it makes me realize that there is nothing better that you can give at least some of your time and some of your life to, other than these children, who after all are our own futures. Thank you very much.
Barbara, thank you so much. I hope you realize that was a full house standing ovation. And, I think I'm sure speaking on behalf of most of you, was the most refreshing, delightful, humane speech that we've ever heard from MEC. And we thank you for sharing with us your story, for showing that you too, in the role that you have faced the same challenges. And that's inspiring to us. Thank you for what you're doing, for the way you're going about it, and for opening the door for Louise and for partners possibility process to take even further route. We truly appreciate it. We truly appreciate your time. Thank you so much. You also taught me how to connect, which is not to go and stand behind a podium, so thank you. So I'm going to follow your lead from there. Ladies and gentlemen, it is late. You have been very, very patient. You have been wonderfully enthusiastic. And we just thank every one of you for that. I do have one or two concluding notes and comments. Not a speech, but just a couple of thanks. The first is to thank every one of you for being here, for your interest, for your time. I do want to acknowledge two special people. That's being Stephanie and Ray. Stephanie and Ray, just stand for a minute. Stephanie and Ray are the learning process facilitators who have kept us all together, motivated, fired up, chivied us along when we haven't been as diligent as we should. But I want to particularly, now Ray, I'm going to ask you to stand up again. If I had to ask you how old this gentleman is, you would look at him and say, by his grey hair and wisdom, he's 117. By his youthful looks, he's got a day over, whatever, 60. But Ray celebrates his 80th birthday in a week or so's time. And he's as active as ever, passionate about education, passionate about what he does. And Ray, you're an inspiration to all of us. And we just want to salute you and thank you. But we want to thank And Ray is having a big celebration for friends and family next week. And we just thank you and salute you for the fact that you have declined any presents and asked any donations to be made to the Partners for Possibility program. So we just salute and thank you for that, Ray. Ladies and gentlemen, an organization such as this does not run on fresh air and love. That's key ingredients, I must tell you. However, it is run by a very dedicated team, not least of which is Louise Van Rijn, who is an absolute tonic and inspiration, who pushes herself over and beyond the call of duty, who is a whirlwind of activity, and the fact that we have 134 partnerships progressing in South Africa with growth, international recognition, doesn't happen by chance. So we just want to say thank you to you. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for your inspiration. This is a moment some of you are dreading. I'm going to be quite blunt. We don't live on love and fresh air. We also need resources, and we do need money for administration. So if any of you would see fit to support the program, not just in terms of your time, but also in terms of your ability from your various organizations, foundations, to support the incredible work that this organization does, we would really value it, and we would appreciate you coming to the party to continue to help us in some small way. Thank you in anticipation for that. One last thing is that we have one of our key programs being the Learning the Art of Community Building, which runs next week, and if you didn't get a flyer on that, please do so. There's still space on that program for anyone who's interested. We are now officially 45 minutes over time. Thank you for being here. I'm not sure, is it already more? There's still some more coffee for those who are able to linger for a bit. If you haven't had enough to eat, there's some more there. We'd love to see you there. Thank you all so much. Please travel safe.
Mad, Joe, like, and it's so funny, like, we're still speaking. So, like,
I just need to get into it. Okay, that's beautiful. Hold on. That's Lizzie's. Get her back home. Her daughter has been in. Okay.